Welcome to Diary of a Sheep Dairy Farmer, where we talk all things dairy sheep, from breeding to lambing to milking and everything in between and outside. I'm your host, Becca, owner, operator, and glorified farmhand of Hidden Hollow Sheep Dairy. Welcome back to another day of dairy sheep, and yes, I am back. It has been a struggle the last several months. I have not been lazy. I just have not had internet. I've tried recording on my phone and it just was not working. It was not, the quality was bad. It just wasn't happening. Our provider has always been a little bit persnickety, for lack of a better word. And it's always been kind of like walking on eggshells around them. Don't mess up or they'll cancel you. Well, guess who messed up? So they canceled us. And well, I've been on the hunt for a new provider ever since August of last year. If you live in a rural area, you know the struggle of finding someone who will reach you. And we have the added obstacle of trees. All that being said, we bit the bullet and we ordered Starlink. Honestly, I don't know why we waited so long. Okay, yes I do. It's expensive. But I really do love it. So I should have no trouble getting episodes out for the rest of the year. Realistically, I wanted to get these out like 2 weeks ago when we got our Starlink set up. But I started lambing and this has not been top priority. I have been a tad bit busy. I will get into that maybe next week. I will do a whole lambing recap of where we are right now. But today is going to be a little recap of what has been going on since we last chatted. So if you don't care about what has been going on the farm, you can go ahead and skip this episode. You won't hurt my feelings. And come back next week when we start talking about lambing and we start talking about all the things that have gone right and have gone wrong so far. As I said, I am in the middle of lambing as of this recording. And so far, knock on wood, things are going well. We have our first time lambers are in the barn right now. They are 2 weeks ahead of the bigger group of mature ewes, and they are a little slow to release their lambs. I'm getting a little bit nervous that these guys are not going to finish lambing before the next group has to come in, and my barn is going to be overflowing with ewes. And I'm not going to have enough room. But I will keep you posted. Life on the farm has been moving forward. We finished up summer lambing with a whopping single lamb. I'm not a told you so type person, but in this instance, I was right when I told my husband it was way too late in the season to try breeding those ewes. So we started our fall breeding in September and put our number 2 ram in with that group of summer ewes, which are the ones that are lambing right now, in hopes that a better turnout. And I can say here that yes, Viper did amazing covering those ewes. I just wish he would have given me a few girls. So far, all I've had are boys. Every single lamb that has been born has been a boy. But there are 29 in this group. And Viper was a rock star. He managed to cover all of them in the first 17 days, but we still kept him in for the full 34 just in case, because they are first timers, and it's probably a good thing as slow as they are lambing. So on about mid-September, we started the rest of our breeding groups, and I have 3 groups with a total of about 45 ewes. I kept it small because I knew with these first time lambers, things could go sideways. So my world basically between the 1st of February and about the 20th, give or take, of March, it's going to be extremely busy, but doable by myself. I used one of my good old standby rams, my up and coming Asaf ram that I keep obsessing over, and a first-time ram that is 2 years old. I just never had the opportunity to use him due to the over-excess amount of rams that I have. Plus, I am one of those that once I find a good ram, I want to use him for everything. Viper, Bruno, Ace, and Sturgeon have been my go-to rams for so long that I tend to forget to use other rams. So our next breeding group started about December 4th, I think. Somewhere between the 1st and the 4th. And there were about around 56 to 60 ewes. I used 2 of my proving rams that have an amazing track record. My Finn Icelandic ram, who this is his last chance. So far, he's been a dud. And a first-time ram that is my favorite from 2023. So that is all for the breeding end of the world. As for the rest of the sheep, I have been really lucky this year and was able to put all of our ewes and our lambs out on our good pasture. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know we struggle with bald eagles killing our lambs. Well, those eagles disappeared for the majority of the summer, which they never do. Usually they leave around about the 1st of August and then come back sometime mid-September. This year they left in July, and they didn't show back up until about mid-September without their babies. I had seen one of the bald eagles around the farm on and off, but not both. And I can't even guarantee it was one of ours. And then we had a juvenile golden eagle show up and try to run the bald eagle off. I will admit, it gave me a ton of entertainment all summer, and to my greatest joy, I did not lose a single lamb to nature, eagles, coyotes, or bad luck. Go me. Being able to raise all the lambs out on pasture with their moms this past summer was fantastic. The lambs were fat and sassy, roly-poly little buggers, and I did something I said I would never do again. Last year, I bent to pressure and I bred younger ewes, and I said I would never do that again. But honestly, these ewe lambs looked really good. Some were as tall as their moms, just not filled out quite as much, and some I couldn't tell if they were from February or last November. So I did what I said I would never do, and I took about a dozen of them and I bred them in December. And that's probably a good thing, because we had a ram breakout. 2 of our rams got out and they stayed in the flock for about 48 hours. And then dumb me forgot I still had ram lambs in with the flock. So guess who's going to be playing Who's Your Daddy come mid-February? Yeah, me. Speaking of rams, I did have to downsize my flock. I ended up selling all my Who's Your Daddy rams, even my 2 favorites. It just really did not make sense to keep them. My ram flock went from 18 head down to 10. I do have 8 of this year's rams in with the older boys, but I think I'm only going to be keeping 2, maybe 4 of them, and the others will all find new homes. The reason I end up downsizing my ram flock was for the single reason that I have downsized my sheep flock. I have gone from 362 ewes down to 166. I did a very, very hard cull. Now that is not counting the replacement ewes that I plan to keep for my 2024 lambing group. And I'm still playing around with those. I did breed, like I said, my February ewe lambs in December. And I sold off what I knew for sure I wasn't keeping of those February and March lambing group. And then I need to make my final decision on what is left of the April and May lambs. I pretty much just threw them out to pasture in June, and other than watching them grow, never really gave them a thought. So now that they are back in the barnyard, I need to go through them. I need to assess them. I need to decide which of those April, May lambs I want to keep for myself, and then those I will keep as replacements, and they will get bred in October of 2025. That is about all the news on the sheep side of the farm. For the farming side of things, we kept plenty busy. I finally got around to disking 2 of our weed fields in September. Our cornfield we burned first, then we disked it, and we will disc it a few more times between now and spring. Then my husband wants to plant corn, so we will have corn silage for winter of 2025 for the sheep. Our old hay field that had been converted into pasture, and now we are reconverting it back into a hay field. We disked it several times, and my husband planted triticale in it. I tore out all the old battered fence around the field, and plan was to put a new fence along there, but as I was tearing out the fence, I got into a ground wasp nest, which left me with over 15 stings on my neck, my face, and my head. And I have not gone back to put up the fence. My husband did kill the wasps, but we let the sheep out to eat the triticale just as kind of they came and went. But they have been locked up since mid-January, so the field can now grow, and then I will have time to put a fence up and keep the sheep out. And then we will take a cutting off of it when we cut our first cutting of hay next year. Speaking of hay, it has been a good year for hay for us. I don't get to say that very often. Since I have cut down on my sheep numbers, we are sitting pretty with hay for the winter. Plus, the sheep haven't overgrazed the pasture out back, which leaves them with a lot of feed out there for winter as well. Our third cutting, however, didn't go quite as planned. With 2 rows left to bale, our baler called it quits. It had been eating itself a little bit each cutting, but the chunk it took out third cutting was the last straw. There was no coming back from that. My husband thought he might be able to fix it, but now it's looking like it's a goner. We did take out half of our south hay field. It is definitely our worst field, and my husband and I are always playing with the idea of tearing it out and replanting it. It's full of thistles and morning glory, which are choking out the hay. It needs reseeded, but neither of us have been willing to do it until we have something to replace it. So with this triticale field, we will have a first cutting off of that, and then we will probably drill hay over the top of that, and then that will help replace what we don't get off of first cutting for that half of the south field. There is a lot of playing around when it comes to planting our fields. All right, let's talk milk real quick, since this is a dairy sheep podcast. Every year I tell myself, this is my year. This is the year I am going to do X, Y, or Z. 2024 was supposed to be the year I milked my sheep, even if it was just 10 sheep for my family, but due to the broken headlocks on the stanchion, it never happened. Then I thought I might get lucky and still be able to milk something from my summer group, since my husband found someone to weld the stanchion headlocks to make it work again. But I ended up with only 1 ewe that lambed, and we were put on a waiting list because the person he found is so backed up. So I am putting it out there now. 2025 is going to be my year for milking sheep. Maybe I won't be using my dairy barn. Maybe I will milk from my orphan gate that I can set up in the barn and milk a couple ewes that way. Maybe I'll get lucky and the welder man will free up his schedule and fit my little project in. I just know I am tired of not being able to do what I want to do, and I'm going to make a better effort to do what I want. On that note, let's wrap this one up. I think that catches you up to date on all the fun that we've had on the farm since August. Oh yeah, for those of you following along, my husband was in campaign mode all of October leading up to the election in November. He ran for county commissioner for our district. He put out signs, attended functions as needed, which means I did too, between tearing out fences, monitoring the breeding of sheep, and he won. And I am so very grateful we don't have to worry over that for another 4 years. Okay guys, as always, I appreciate you all being here and thank you for your support. I would be ever so grateful if you would leave a review or share this podcast with your dairy sheep loving friends. Anything to get the word out. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at Diary of a Sheep Dairy Farmer. And if you want to follow the chaos around the farm, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Hidden Hollow Sheep Dairy. If there are any topics you are interested in, or if you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, please let me know. You can reach out to me at hiddenhollowidaho@gmail.com. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll talk to you again next week.